Saturday mornings in black households during the 1970s and 1980s were sacred. The smell of bacon and pancakes mingled with the sound of cartoon theme songs echoing through living rooms across neighborhoods. While other families might have slept in or scattered to different activities, black kids knew that Saturday morning had a rhythm, a ritual, and an unspoken set of rules that made those hours between dawn and noon feel magical. These weren't just cartoons. They were community moments, family traditions, and cultural touchstones that shaped an entire generation. What made Saturday morning cartoons in black households so different from anywhere else? Here are 25 rituals that only those who lived it will truly understand. 1. Waking up before your parents. For many black kids, Saturday mornings began with an internal alarm clock set for somewhere between 6 and 7 a.m. The house was still quiet, with only the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the floorboards. Kids would tiptoe down hallways, careful not to wake parents who had worked hard all week and deserved their rest. The television would come on with that distinctive warming sound, the screen gradually brightening to reveal the first cartoon of the morning. There was something thrilling about having those early moments to yourself, controlling the remote before anyone else got up. This wasn't just about watching cartoons. It was about claiming that precious window of freedom before chores were assigned, before breakfast had to be eaten at the table, and before the structure of the day took over. Those early morning hours belonged to the kids, and they guarded them carefully. The sound had to be kept low enough not to disturb sleeping parents, but loud enough to hear Scooby-Doo's distinctive voice or the Looney Tunes theme song. It taught responsibility and respect, even in moments of pure childhood joy. 2. The strict no changing the channel rule. In black households, the television remote wasn't a toy. It was a position of power earned through age and negotiation. Once a channel was set to ABC, CBS, or NBC for cartoons, it stayed there. Older siblings had final say, and younger kids learned quickly that touching that dial without permission could result in serious consequences. Arguments over whether to watch the Bugs Bunny and Tweety Show or the Smurfs could escalate into full family negotiations, with Mama sometimes coming in to settle the dispute with a final, unchallengeable decision. The channel stayed put, and everyone watched together. This rule created a unique communal experience. Unlike today's world of individual screens and streaming options, black families watched cartoons as a collective unit. Siblings learned to compromise, to appreciate shows they might not have chosen themselves, and to find joy in shared experiences. The ritual taught lessons about democracy, patience, and family unity, all while East Coyote chased the Roadrunner or the Super Friends saved the world. Those negotiations and compromises became as much a part of Saturday morning as the cartoons themselves. 3. Mama's Kitchen Symphony as the soundtrack. While cartoons played in the living room, another kind of magic happened in the kitchen. Black mothers and grandmothers would rise not long after the kids, and the sounds of breakfast preparation became the authentic soundtrack of Saturday mornings. The sizzle of bacon in a cast-iron skillet, the crack of eggs against a bowl's edge, the rhythmic pour of pancake batter onto a hot griddle. These sounds harmonized with cartoon theme songs to create a sensory experience unique to black households. The smell of butter melting, coffee percolating, and sometimes salmon croquettes frying would drift into the living room, making it almost impossible to concentrate on the television. This wasn't just cooking. It was love made audible and aromatic. Mothers who had worked all week in other people's homes or offices were now creating something special for their own families. Kids learned to recognize the sound of a wooden spoon scraping a pot of grits or the particular sizzle that meant home fries were almost ready. These kitchen sounds signaled that Saturday morning wasn't just about entertainment. It was about family nourishment and the comfort of home. Even now, the theme song to Fat Albert or Schoolhouse Rock can bring back not just the image of those cartoons, but the smell of Mama's kitchen on a Saturday morning. 4. The cereal bowl negotiation. Saturday morning was often the only time black kids might get sugary cereal instead of the usual oatmeal, cream of wheat, or eggs. Cereal brands like Fruity Pebbles, Captain Crunch, or Lucky Charms were weekend treats. not everyday breakfast options. Kids would make their case for which cereal to buy during the Friday grocery trip, knowing that Saturday morning hung in the balance. Once home, the negotiation continued over portion sizes and milk ratios. Older siblings might guard their favorite cereals, hiding boxes behind healthier options, or claiming ownership with marked lines on the box. Some households had a strict one-bowl rule during cartoons, while others allowed refills only during commercial breaks. This ritual taught kids about delayed gratification and the value of special treats. Sugary cereal wasn't an automatic right. It was earned through good behavior during the week, completed chores, or academic success. The crunch of those colorful flakes mixed with cold milk, eaten while watching Scooby-Doo solve another mystery, created a multisensory experience that defined Saturday mornings. Some kids became experts at eating cereal as slowly as possible to make it last through multiple cartoon segments, savoring every sweet, crunchy bite while the adventures unfolded on screen. 5. The commercial break sprint. When commercials interrupted cartoons, Black households transformed into zones of efficient activity. Kids knew they had exactly 2 to 3 minutes to accomplish critical missions: refill a cereal bowl, use the bathroom, grab a juice box from the refrigerator, or retrieve a toy from the bedroom. This wasn't casual movement. It was a calculated sprint, with internal timers counting down the seconds until cartoons resumed. Some kids became experts at timing their movements, knowing exactly how long a commercial break would last based on which show was playing. Missing even 30 seconds of a cartoon after the break felt like a devastating loss. These commercial break sprints taught time management and efficiency in unexpected ways. Kids learned to prioritize tasks, to move with purpose, and to respect the value of those precious cartoon minutes. Older siblings might coordinate bathroom schedules to ensure everyone got a turn without missing key plot points. Parents would sometimes strategically call kids for quick tasks during commercial breaks, knowing they had a captive but time-limited audience. The ritual created a rhythm to the morning, punctuating cartoon storytelling with bursts of real-world activity that kept the household functioning smoothly. 6. The SH. Finger to lips when the good part came on. In Black households, certain cartoon moments demanded absolute silence. When the mystery was about to be solved in Scooby-Doo, when the Super Friends are facing their greatest challenge, or when a Roadrunner was about to outsmart while E. Coyote in spectacular fashion, any sibling who dared speak would receive the universal SH gesture, a finger pressed firmly to lips, accompanied by a fierce look that communicated the seriousness of the interruption. Older siblings enforced this rule with particular vigilance, acting as unofficial guardians of cartoon concentration. Even parents learned to save questions or instructions for commercial breaks, respecting these sacred moments of animated storytelling. This ritual wasn't about being rude or antisocial. It was about honoring the shared experience and recognizing that these cartoon moments mattered. In households where entertainment options were limited and family time was precious, cartoons were taken seriously as communal events. Kids learned to read social cues, to respect others' enjoyment, and to save their own comments for appropriate moments. The SH became shorthand for "this matters to us," and it taught children that shared experiences required mutual respect and consideration. Those silences during climactic cartoon moments created a collective tension and release that made the storytelling feel more powerful and the Saturday morning ritual more meaningful. 7. Cartoons and pajamas until Mama said get dressed. Saturday morning pajamas were different from weeknight sleepwear in Black households. They represented freedom, comfort, and the luxury of not having anywhere to go. Kids would settle into the living room in their pajamas, sometimes the previous night's sleep clothes, sometimes special weekend pajamas that were softer and more worn in. Staying in pajamas while watching cartoons was an unspoken privilege, a sign that Saturday morning was a protected time before the responsibilities of the day took over. The moment would last until Mama announced it was time to get dressed, usually signaling that cartoon time was ending and chores or errands were about to begin. This ritual marked the boundary between leisure and labor, between childhood freedom and family responsibility. As long as pajamas were acceptable, the morning belonged to imagination, animation, and possibility. The transition to street clothes meant re-entering the structured world of expectations. Some kids pushed the boundaries, trying to extend pajama time by getting dressed as slowly as possible or claiming they had just one more cartoon to watch. But when Mama said get dressed, everyone knew the magic window was closing. Those hours in pajamas became associated with comfort, safety, and the particular kind of peace that only Saturday mornings could bring. 8. The plastic-covered couch situation. Many Black households protected their furniture with plastic covers, a practical choice that created a unique sensory experience during Saturday morning cartoons. Kids would settle onto sofas covered in thick, slightly sticky plastic that made distinctive sounds with every movement. In summer, the plastic would stick to bare legs, creating an uncomfortable but familiar sensation. In winter, it felt cool against skin, requiring blankets or strategic positioning. The plastic crinkled and squeaked with each shift of weight, creating an unintentional soundtrack to cartoon viewing that became as familiar as the theme songs themselves. This wasn't just about protecting furniture. It represented the pride Black families took in their homes and possessions, the determination to make things last despite economic challenges, and the sacrifice parents made to create nice environments for their children. Kids learned not to complain about the plastic, understanding it was there for a reason. Some families had special cartoon-watching blankets or towels to place over the plastic, creating a more comfortable viewing experience. The plastic-covered couch became a symbol of Black households' particular relationship with respectability, preservation, and making do with what you had while still maintaining dignity and standards. 9. The Saturday morning cartoon lineup memorization. Black kids in the 1970s and 1980s didn't have DVRs or streaming guides. They memorized television schedules with the precision of scholars. Kids knew exactly which shows aired at which times on which channels. The mental map went something like 7 a.m. was Bugs Bunny, 7:30 brought the Smurfs, 8 a.m. meant the Flintstones, 8:30 delivered Scooby-Doo, and so on through the morning. They could recite the lineup like catechism, planning their morning activities around this sacred schedule. Arguments with siblings often involved citing specific time slots and channel numbers, with kids defending their preferred shows by invoking the official network schedule. This memorization represented more than just knowing when cartoons aired. It demonstrated that these shows mattered deeply, that they were worth remembering and defending. In an era before abundant entertainment options, Black kids treated Saturday morning cartoons as appointment viewing that structured their entire weekend. Parents would sometimes be amazed at children who struggled to remember homework assignments but could recite the entire ABC Saturday morning lineup without hesitation. The skill revealed where kids' priorities lay and how much those few hours of animated entertainment meant in lives that were often filled with responsibilities, limitations, and adult expectations during the rest of the week. 10. That's my show. Territory wars. While the no channel changing rule was sacred, individual shows still sparked territorial claims among siblings. An older brother might declare Fat Albert as his show, creating an unspoken agreement that he got preferential seating and silence during that half hour. A younger sister might claim Jem and the Holograms or Rainbow Bright as hers, even if those shows aired later in the morning. These territorial claims weren't officially enforced by parents but held weight through sibling dynamics and informal family hierarchies. During someone's declared show, they got the best spot on the couch, the right to control volume, and protection from interruptions or teasing. This ritual created structure within the chaos of multiple kids competing for attention and space. It taught negotiation skills, respect for others' preferences, and the importance of boundaries. Even in entertainment, younger siblings learned that their time would come, that patience and respect for others' territory would eventually be rewarded with their own protected space. These territorial claims sometimes lasted for years, with specific shows becoming associated with individual family members. Decades later, adults would remember not just the cartoons themselves, but which sibling claimed which show, creating lasting memories tied to both animated characters and family dynamics. 11. The TV repair anxiety. Before cable became common and when televisions were expensive investments, Black families lived with the constant possibility that the TV might break down on Friday night or Saturday morning itself. The anxiety was real and specific. Would the television work this Saturday? When screens went fuzzy or sound cut out, panic set in. Kids learned to gently tap the television set, to adjust the rabbit ear antennas with precise, almost ritualistic movements, or to call for a parent when the horizontal hold failed and the picture rolled continuously. Some families had specific techniques: a firm smack on the side, a particular angle for the antenna, a waiting period before turning the TV back on, that were passed down like sacred knowledge. This experience taught Black kids about the fragility of joy and entertainment, about being grateful for what they had while it worked. It created a different relationship with technology than many kids have today, where entertainment devices are disposable and easily replaced. Saturday morning cartoons weren't guaranteed. They required a functioning television, good weather for antenna reception, and sometimes a bit of prayer. The relief when the TV worked properly after a week of uncertainty made the cartoons taste sweeter. When the TV finally did break beyond simple fixes, the loss felt profound, and families would sometimes go weeks or months before repair or replacement could be afforded, making Saturday mornings suddenly painfully empty. 12. The antenna position dance. Before cable television, Black households relied on rabbit ear antennas or rooftop aerials to catch broadcast signals. Getting a clear picture for Saturday morning cartoons often required someone, usually the youngest child, to stand near the TV holding the antenna at a specific angle. The antenna holder position was both a burden and a badge of honor. Kids would stand there, arm extended, barely able to see the screen themselves, while siblings watched comfortably from the couch. Moving even slightly could cause the picture to dissolve into snow or static, resulting in immediate complaints. Some families wrapped aluminum foil around antenna tips, creating homemade signal boosters that gave the TV a distinctive, almost space-age appearance. This ritual taught patience, sacrifice, and the reality that entertainment required effort and cooperation. The antenna holder was serving the family, giving up their own comfortable viewing experience so others could enjoy clear pictures. Parents would sometimes rotate the responsibility, ensuring fairness, but also teaching kids that everyone had to contribute to the household joy. When cable television finally arrived in Black neighborhoods, often years after it reached other communities, the end of antenna adjustments felt miraculous. Kids who had grown up as antenna holders never quite forgot the experience of standing in one specific spot arm-making, just so their family could watch Fat Albert or the Super Friends with a crystal clear picture. 13. The background, adult conversations. Saturday morning cartoons in Black households often happened with adult conversations as background noise. Mama might be on the phone with a sister or cousin, their voices creating a melodic counterpoint to cartoon sound effects. Daddy might have a friend over early, talking about work or sports or neighborhood news in the kitchen while kids watch TV in the living room. These adult voices weren't disruptions. They were part of the texture of Saturday mornings, a reminder that the household contained multiple generations with different rhythms and priorities. Kids learned to filter out adult talk while staying alert for their own names or for tones that suggested they might be called away from cartoons for some task. This wasn't about neglect or inattention. It represented the reality of Black family life, where multi-generational households or tight-knit communities meant that adult business and children's entertainment existed simultaneously. Kids developed the ability to focus amid ambient noise, a skill that would serve them throughout life. They also absorbed adult conversations unconsciously, learning about family dynamics, community concerns, and the challenges their parents faced. Those overheard snippets about bills, work struggles, or family drama created a fuller understanding of the world beyond cartoons, grounding childhood fantasy in adult reality without completely crushing the magic of Saturday morning. 14. The forbidden phone situation. In black households, the telephone had rules, and Saturday morning had its own specific phone protocol. Kids knew not to answer the phone during cartoons unless specifically told to do so. If the phone did ring, it was usually an adult responsibility, and conversations were kept brief if cartoons were on. For families with teenagers, Saturday morning phone calls from friends were particularly unwelcome. The sound of the phone ringing could interrupt crucial cartoon moments, and whoever answered had to balance politeness with efficiency, getting off the line as quickly as possible without being rude. Some households had an unofficial no unnecessary phone calls until noon rule on Saturdays. This ritual reflected both the importance of Saturday morning cartoons and the more general black family values around telephone use. The phone was for important communication, not idle chatter, especially during protected family time. Kids learned that there were appropriate times for different activities, that family time deserved protection from outside interruptions, and that something as simple as a phone call could be managed with consideration for others. These lessons about communication boundaries and family priorities were taught indirectly through the routine of cartoon watching and the shared understanding that Saturday morning was too precious to be disrupted by non-essential conversations. 15. The chore warning system. Experienced black kids developed a sixth sense for when mama was about to announce the end of cartoon time and the beginning of chore time. There were signs. The sound of breakfast cleanup finishing, mama's tone shifting from relaxed to purposeful, the appearance of cleaning supplies, or simply the clock approaching 11 or noon. Kids would become hyper-aware during the last few cartoons, trying to extend the morning while knowing the inevitable was coming. Some developed strategies, offering to do a small task immediately to delay bigger chores, suddenly remembering homework, or claiming they were in the middle of their favorite show. But mama's chore announcement was as certain as sunrise, and Saturday afternoon meant work. This transition taught kids about the balance between pleasure and responsibility, about earning leisure time through completing obligations. The predictability of the pattern created structure. Cartoons now, chores next, then freedom later in the day. Black parents believed in teaching work ethic early in Saturday chores. Cleaning bathrooms, vacuuming, washing dishes, yard work were non-negotiable. The fact that these chores came after cartoon time made them more tolerable. Kids had gotten their reward first, and now it was time to contribute to the household. This rhythm of joy followed by responsibility became internalized, shaping how black children approach work and pleasure throughout their lives. 16. The Fat Albert Life Lesson Moment. Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids occupied a special place in black Saturday morning television. Unlike other cartoons, Fat Albert explicitly taught moral lessons about neighborhood life, friendship, and overcoming challenges. Black families would often pause conversations during Fat Albert's closing message, when the animated character would step out of the storyline to speak directly to viewers about the episode's lesson. Parents would sometimes add their own commentary, reinforcing the message or connecting it to the family's own values and experiences. Kids might roll their eyes, but they were paying attention, absorbing lessons about community, respect, and resilience that would stay with them for decades. This wasn't just entertainment, it was cultural affirmation and education. Fat Albert reflected black urban life, showed black kids as heroes of their own stories, and addressed issues like poverty, prejudice, and family struggles with honesty and humor. For many black children, seeing animated characters who looked like them and lived in neighborhoods like theirs was profoundly validating. The show's combination of fun and meaningful content made Saturday mornings feel purposeful, not just pleasurable. Parents appreciated cartoons that reinforced the values they were trying to teach at home, and Fat Albert delivered messages about character and community that aligned with black cultural traditions of mutual support and collective responsibility. 17. The Sugar Rush and Inevitable Crash. Saturday morning's combination of sugary cereal, syrup-soaked pancakes, and juice cocktails created a distinctive energy pattern in black households. Kids would start the morning sluggish, gradually becoming more animated as cartoons progressed and sugar hit their bloodstreams. By mid-morning, energy levels peaked. Kids were loud, bouncing, reenacting cartoon scenes, and pushing the boundaries of indoor behavior. Then came a crash, usually right around the time cartoons ended and before chores began. Kids would suddenly become quiet, slightly cranky, and resistant to the transition away from television. Parents recognized this pattern, timing their chore announcements for either the peak energy moment or waiting for the crash to make kids more compliant. This cycle taught subtle lessons about cause and effect, about how what you consume affects your energy and mood. Some Black mothers were acutely aware of the sugar situation and tried to balance sweet treats with protein and complex carbohydrates, ensuring kids had enough fuel for the chores ahead. The sugar crash became part of the Saturday morning ritual, as predictable as the cartoons themselves. Kids learned to recognize their own energy patterns, understanding that the high from Lucky Charms would eventually give way to a need for real food and physical activity. This early awareness of how diet affected energy and behavior would influence eating habits and self-understanding throughout life. 18. The cartoon reenactment phase. After particularly exciting cartoon segments, Black kids would jump up during commercial breaks to reenact what they'd just seen. Living rooms became stages for Superman impressions, Scooby-Doo chase scenes, or Super Friends team-ups. Couch cushions transformed into Wonder Woman's invisible jet, brooms became wizard staffs, and siblings temporarily set aside territorial disputes to cooperate in elaborate fantasy scenarios. Older brothers would reluctantly play villains so younger siblings could be heroes, creating improvised theater that extended the cartoon experience beyond the screen. These reenactments could become quite physical, with kids running, jumping, and occasionally breaking things, prompting parental warnings about tearing up my living room. This play was more than simple imitation. It was how Black kids processed storytelling, internalized heroic qualities, and developed imagination. In communities where economic resources were limited, children learned to create entertainment from whatever materials were available. A towel became a cape, a jump rope became Wonder Woman's lasso, and siblings became ensemble casts for elaborate adventures. Parents tolerated reasonable amounts of this play, recognizing it as healthy and creative, while maintaining boundaries about safety and property. These reenactments also taught negotiation, cooperation, and storytelling. Kids had to agree on plot lines, assign roles, and navigate the social dynamics of group play, all skills that would serve them throughout life. 19. The cartoons versus Soul Train dilemma. As Saturday morning stretched into late morning and early afternoon, Black households faced a unique programming conflict. Soul Train typically aired around 11 a.m. or noon, depending on local stations, creating a generational divide. Kids wanted to continue watching cartoons, but parents and older teenagers wanted to see Soul Train, with its music, dance, and celebration of Black culture. The negotiation could be intense, with kids arguing for one more cartoon and adults asserting their right to control the television. Some families had 2 TVs, solving the problem by letting kids watch cartoons in one room while adults enjoyed Soul Train in another. But for single TV households, this transition marked the official end of cartoon time. Soul Train represented something different from cartoons. It was adult Black culture in living color, a showcase of fashion, music, and dance that parents had been waiting for all week. Kids might initially resist the switch, but they often end up watching Soul Train anyway, absorbing the music and culture even if they claimed not to care. Those exposure moments mattered, creating connections between generations and introducing young Black children to the artist sounds and styles that defined their community. The transition from cartoons to Soul Train marked the shift from childhood fantasy to cultural education, both important elements of Saturday in Black households. 20. The visiting cousin wild card. Saturday mornings took on a different energy when cousins visited or slept over. The cartoon watching rules had to be renegotiated, territorial claims were challenged, and the comfortable routines were disrupted in exciting ways. Visiting cousins brought news from their neighborhoods, opinions about which cartoons were best, and sometimes different breakfast preferences that required mama's diplomatic skills. They might know cartoons that local kids had never seen or have theories about cartoon plots that sparked heated debates. The presence of cousins turned Saturday morning from a predictable ritual into an adventure, with more kids competing for couch space, more opinions about which shows to watch, and more energy bouncing around the house. This experience taught flexibility, hospitality, and the importance of family connections beyond the immediate household. Black families maintained strong, extended kinship networks, and cousins were more like siblings than distant relatives. Sharing Saturday morning cartoons with cousins created lasting bonds and memories. Kids learned to compromise, to share treats and attention, and to navigate the social dynamics of expanded groups. Mama's breakfast had to stretch further. Bathroom time required more coordination, and arguments could escalate more quickly. But the joy of having family together outweighed the complications. These Saturday mornings with cousins reinforced cultural values about family unity, mutual support, and the pleasure of shared experiences. 21. The commercial jingle mastery. Black kids didn't just watch Saturday morning cartoons. They absorbed every commercial jingle, catchphrase, and product pitch. They could sing the entire Frosted Flake song, recite the Lucky Charms Leprechauns dialogue, and mimic the Trix Rabbit's voice with perfect inflection. Commercials for toys like Rubik's Cubes, Easy Bake Ovens, and board games were memorized and discussed with the same intensity as the cartoons themselves. Kids would beg parents for products they'd seen advertised, using jingles and commercial catchphrases to make their cases. Some families made a game of seeing who could sing commercials most accurately, turning advertising into entertainment and family bonding. This phenomenon revealed both the power of marketing and the cultural practice of oral tradition in Black communities. Memorizing and repeating jingles was similar to how earlier generations had memorized spirituals, rhymes, and stories. It was cultural transmission through repetition and rhythm. Black kids were particularly skilled at this kind of memorization, perhaps because their communities valued musical expression and rhythmic language. Decades later, adults could still sing these jingles word for word, the commercials as deeply embedded in memory as the cartoons themselves. This shared knowledge became a form of generational identity, a way to recognize others who had grown up in the same Saturday morning culture. 22. The pre-cartoon fight settlement. Smart Black parents learned that Saturday morning required preemptive conflict resolution. Before cartoons even started, siblings might be required to settle disputes from the previous week, agree on seating arrangements, and establish rules about sharing snacks and remote control privileges. Parents would lay down the law. Y'all better figure it out now, because I'm not refereeing all morning. This forced negotiation taught kids to resolve conflicts independently, to find compromises, and to prioritize group harmony over individual grievances. Some families even had official cartoon watching agreements, with older siblings responsible for maintaining peace and younger kids expected to accept certain hierarchies. This pre-cartoon diplomacy reflected broader Black cultural values about community and collective well-being. Fighting during cartoons ruined the experience for everyone, and individualistic demands had to be balanced against family peace. Kids learned that their personal preferences mattered less than maintaining household harmony, that adult patience for childish disputes had limits, and that they were capable of solving problems independently if motivated properly. The threat of having cartoons turned off completely was usually enough to inspire cooperation. These early lessons in negotiation, compromise, and collective decision-making prepared Black kids for navigating complex social situations throughout their lives. 23. The special episode excitement. Certain Saturday mornings brought special events that elevated the cartoon experience beyond routine. Holiday specials, new season premieres, or crossover episodes where characters from different shows appeared together created palpable excitement in Black households. Kids would talk about these special episodes at school on Friday, making sure everyone knew to watch on Saturday. The energy on these mornings was different. Kids woke up earlier, paid even closer attention, and talked about the episodes for weeks afterward. Some families treated special episodes as events, with Mama allowing extra snacks or Daddy watching along with the kids to see what the fuss was about. These special episodes created shared cultural moments that bound communities together. At church on Sunday or at school the following Monday, Black kids would discuss what they'd seen, debating plot points and favorite moments. The shared viewing experience created common reference points and strengthened peer relationships. In an era before social media or instant communication, these simultaneous viewing experiences were how children built collective culture. The anticipation, the viewing, and the post-episode discussion became a multi-day ritual that extended the impact of a single Saturday morning far beyond its actual duration. 24. The last cartoon desperation. As the clock approached the end of cartoon programming, usually around 11 a.m. or noon, a particular desperation set in among Black kids. They knew chores, errands, or other Saturday responsibilities were about to replace their animated paradise. Kids would suddenly declare that one more show was their absolute favorite, that they'd been waiting all morning for this particular episode, or that they needed to see how a cliffhanger resolved. These last-minute negotiations rarely succeeded, but kids tried anyway, attempting to squeeze every possible minute from cartoon time before reality intruded. Some would watch faster, as if intense concentration could slow time, while others savored each remaining moment with heightened awareness. This end of cartoons desperation taught kids about time's passage, about transitions, and about the temporary nature of pleasure. Black parents generally held firm against these last-minute pleas, understanding that structure and discipline were as important as entertainment. The transition away from cartoons toward afternoon responsibilities was non-negotiable, even when kids begged for more time. This firmness taught that joy and responsibility had to coexist, that one couldn't escape obligations by avoiding transitions. The predictability of the ending also made it less painful. Kids knew it was coming, which allowed them to mentally prepare even as they externally resisted. Learning to accept endings gracefully was a life skill taught through Saturday morning cartoons. 25. The quiet after the cartoons ended. When cartoon programming transitioned to other shows, sports, cooking shows, or public affairs programs, a distinctive quiet settled over Black households. The absence of cartoon music and sound effects left a temporary void that kids felt physically. They would sit for a moment in that quiet, adjusting to the shift, before Mama's voice broke the silence with chore assignments or instructions about the rest of the day. That brief, contemplative moment between cartoon fantasy and afternoon reality represented a threshold, a transition from the magical to the mundane. Kids would sometimes sigh, stretch, or exchange glances with siblings, acknowledging that their special time had passed. This quiet was more than just the absence of sound. It represented the end of childhood freedom and the return to responsibility, the boundary between play and work, between being served breakfast and serving the household through chores. Black kids learned to carry the joy of Saturday morning cartoons forward into the rest of the day, to let the stories and excitement fuel them through less enjoyable tasks. Parents understood this transition and often gave kids a few minutes to adjust before launching into afternoon activities. That quiet moment became a small gift, a buffer between two different worlds, the animated world of possibility and the real world of obligation, both necessary, both valuable, both part of the rhythm that defined Black Saturday life.